What's going on, everybody? You're listening on a chilly Wednesday evening. We got snow on the ground. This is another episode of the Tall and Short of It podcast. I'm your host, Justin.
And I'm Aaron. Welcome back, everyone.
How we doing this evening, man?
Doing pretty good. So over the weekend, I wrapped up my dry January where I was not drinking. So I'm back. Is it on the wagon or off the wagon when you're drinking?
I think you're off the wagon when you're drinking.
Okay, so I'm back off the wagon.
Gotcha. Okay.
So cheers, everyone.
Hey, cheers.
Oh, you're over there being classy. I'm here drinking my beer.
Oh, it's so far from classy. This is box wine.
Beautiful.
hmm
But yeah, everything's been pretty good. How have you been, man?
I'm doing okay. I'm 4 years off the wagon. I've
Congratulations.
been drinking daily since then. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, my week's been okay. To be honest, just straight up to the listeners, kind of a slow, quiet week for me. Some things going on here and there, but nothing too crazy. I'm gonna hop in your backpack and hope that you can carry me like the old days.
Sounds good, man. Well, so with the snow and everything, so I got to work from home for 2 days. Obviously, you can't. But did you have to do any snow cleanup or anything around the? Oh, that is
It's not.
my.
It's not bad though. It's not bad because we only have stairs, a little like patio thing, and
Gotcha.
then we did. We share a washer dryer in the basement of the main house.
Okay.
So we did like the pathway to that, and then cleared off the doors just because we had some laundry to do.
Gotcha.
But as far as like at the office, we didn't have to do anything with that.
Oh, that's awesome that they take
Yeah.
care of it for you. Fortunately, my complex takes care of the snow. The company that they get to do it doesn't do a phenomenal job. It's still pretty messy out there, but I mean, I can get through it. Uh, but I was annoyed because yesterday I went out during my lunch. Since I was working from home, I'm like, I'll clear off my car because tomorrow morning I have to go back into the office. I got to get ready uh, and everything. So I go out, clear off my car, spend like 10, 15 minutes, nothing too crazy, get it ready to go, dig out some trenches for my tires so I can make it out of my spot easily. I go
Right.
out this morning and we got another half inch of snow overnight. I'm
Damn.
come on.
Right.
I felt like I wasted my time, but it was fine. But
Well, that's
yeah.
always the choice, isn't it? To steadily do it as it comes down and be in and out every hour, or just wait, right?
Oh, I
But
just wait. I'm a
yeah,
waiter.
yeah, same.
If the only time I wouldn't be is if I'm living somewhere where there's a lot of foot traffic. I'd have to at least clear out a small path down the sidewalk kind of thing
Right.
to make sure that no one can sue me.
I was gonna say, is that something you like sign up to
To,
do? Is it just expected of you? Like if you have a public sidewalk as like out front of your property, that's like your responsibility, right? Like nobody
yeah.
comes to do that.
So the last place I lived, the landlord was a real stickler about it because I guess he had someone slip and fall on the sidewalk previously. It turned into a
Right.
lawsuit and whatever. So
Ooh, brutal.
he was like, you all have to be. It was in our lease that we had to be on top of any snow that was out there. But I'm very happy I don't have to worry about that here. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty nice. And what I always find funny is um the increase in like client complaints when the snow starts falling. It's like, oh yeah, I was out shoveling and now my back just hurts. It's like, perfect. So
yep.
I see snow and I see dollar signs.
I mean, I understand where they're coming from though. Back when I used to have to shovel when I was growing up, because that was me and my brother and dad out there.
Mm-hmm.
Because my dad, for whatever reason, we had a snowblower, but unless it was at least 3 inches of snow, he wouldn't
Right.
break it out. So we would have some of
I
those
respect
like
that.
we would have some of those like heavy wet snows that are like just like dense.
Right.
And those were always the worst to shovel because like they usually wouldn't reach that point, and I'm like, this sucks.
And to your dad's point, it's kind of like you almost like teach your kids laziness if you're like, oh, a little bit of snow, break out the snow blower. It's like a little dusting, and you're like using the heavy machinery
Well,
trying to
like
make your life easy.
I don't expect it to be like that, but I also, for whatever, I think I have like poor circulation in my fingers. So, like,
Mm,
whenever, whether it was like baseball or like playing baseball in the cold and like swinging the bat, like, anytime I hit the ball, my hands would sting like crazy. Shoveling snow, my fingers would get super like numb and like start to hurt from the cold. Even, and like, normally if I'm just wearing gloves walking, um, in it like never happens. But if I'm actively like holding things in the snow, I guess the like reduction in blood flow from clenching
mm,
fists type thing
right.
would cause my hands to start hurting. So I was a huge.
Interesting.
I was a little bit of a baby when I was a kid, and I would shovel because my fingers would like be in pain.
Right. Now,
So
does your family have a history of like heart disease? Do you have a lot of cigarette smokers in your family at
um,
all?
my granddad did when he was younger. Also,
Mm,
Pop Pop is 92 today. Today's his birthday. I
damn.
tried to call him twice, couldn't get a hold of him, so I'm hoping that he's out having a drink with some people. So,
Yeah, there you go. Nice.
um, but he was a smoker for a bit. My grandmom did have some heart issues later on in life,
Gotcha.
so it could be something genetic. But as far as I'm aware, none of my siblings or my parents have the same issue. So
Gotcha. Maybe you're just a little tiny stick man.
I was a
Bad
little tiny
circulation.
stick man at the time, so
Mm-hmm.
that would
There you
make
go.
sense. But
That'll do it.
yeah, but other than the snow this past week, I did have. There was some interesting stuff going on. I'm sure everyone listening has heard that there was some weirdness with the stock market, um, and there were basically people on Reddit were fucking with big hedge funds. But I saw that Robinhood, a stock app, was restricting what people could buy and sell and yada
Mm-hmm.
yada yada. And then I saw that Ja Rule tweeted about it, and he said his tweet is, "Yo, this is a fucking crime what Robinhood is doing. Do not sell. Hold the line. WTF." And I just thought it was so funny because it just made me think of the Dave Chappelle sketch or his comedy stand up where he's like talking about Ja Rule and he's like, "What would Ja do?" And
Oh yes.
and that's all I could think of when I saw this.
Job would hold.
I'm like, there's
He would
all these
hold.
people out here tweeting about this stock craziness and everything. Like, I not to get into all that, but that was the last person I expected to see a tweet from, and I was like, well, I guess Dave was right. What would Ja do? Ja would hold.
To that point, there's a steady increase of like ex hip hop artists. I'm sure they would, consider themselves still hip hop artists, but like artists who used to record, right?
Yeah.
And they get a bag and then they'll like try and teach people about it. Like I know Ti, also known as Tip, also known as the King of Atlanta, also known as the King of Trap, also known as no, he has a podcast where he talks like money management, like financial skills, how to get a bag, how to hold a bag, how to, do all that
Interesting.
stuff with bags. And there's something really funny about, and more power to him, but honestly, there's something really funny about like a rapper commenting on like Wall Street and like big hedge fund money. Like To me, that's very funny.
I think it's really entertaining, but honestly, it kind of makes sense that there would be, because like there are a lot of stories of people like becoming famous, like whether it's music, movies, sports, and then like going bankrupt because they are coming from like life that didn't teach them financial literacy. So like people like Allen Iverson at one point went bankrupt, like the Philadelphia 76ers star, and like so many people. So it's kind of almost refreshing seeing that, being like, okay, these people like made it, and now they're like, they know how to take care of it too. So it's kind of funny, but
well,
good to see.
That point, I agree. To that point, do you remember we were talking about that when 444 came out, and where Jay-Z on the album, he was like, I'm trying to give you guys 20 years a game for $9.99.
Yeah.
Like talking about the 10 years ago, I could have bought that building for $2 million. Guess what it's worth now? $22 million. Guess how I'm feeling? Dumbo. Like, just all these lines of trying to educate the uneducated. And I'm not saying dudes are stupid.
No.
But there is an element where, fuck, even we weren't taught that kind of stuff. Unless you had somebody in your family or close to you, a mentor from school, a mentor from a job, a mentor from a sport, whatever it was. Like, that is the kind of information that is held down tight. They do not teach that shit.
No,
like it's like rich don't want to make other rich people. They want it, right?
Right. Well, and that's like I was fortunate because my dad has been doing taxes for like decades now. So it's like something he's always done on the side for as long as I could remember. Worked for H&R Block for a while. Now he has his own tax business and like does this for a couple hundred people every year, does their taxes. So like fortunately for myself growing up, I like did have that, and my dad actually, being a math teacher at Reading High, he teaches, his favorite class to teach is a personal finance class that he teaches to seniors. So he goes through like taxes, creating a budget, like how to do some financial planning and all, and like it's one of his, and I think it's super important for any young person to learn. But yeah, you're right, we are not taught it. And the other thing that I think of is a saying that, like, I didn't necessarily coin it, but it's something that I don't know where I got it from.
Scared money don't make money.
No, it's common sense is what's common around you. Like, so to someone might say like common sense, like, oh, it's just common sense that you need to put money away and have like some money for a rainy day. But like, if you grow up and your family's living paycheck to paycheck and not being able to put anything in savings and everything, like that's what's normal to you. That's like, you're not gonna, like, why would you think to do something differently than what you've seen your whole life, kind of thing. So yeah, it's definitely cool that there are some people out there that are trying to educate, help people who are just haven't learned those things and haven't really had the opportunity to. So
right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's an interesting role for hip hop and for today's youth. It's interesting because they really are like role models. Like they really are role models.
Yeah.
Maybe not necessarily. Well, to be fair, Ja Rule would not be on my list of role models, but I don't know anything about the guy. I'm sure I'm sure you do a little digging. He may be a part of like philanthropic organizations. He may donate his time at like a veterinarian hospital. We don't know.
Right.
But I will say for me personally, one of my personal heroes and somebody who I've looked up to an incredible amount of my life is Jay-Z. Like he
That
is
man,
gonna
he knows what he's doing with his money.
dude, yeah, and like this is gonna sound corny, but like his music, it's a blueprint how to be successful. He went from he went from being self-employed, quote unquote, and he leveraged that into big business. And there are moments in his career, moments in his music where he tries to impart that on people. However, what is odd about these individuals in hip hop, these artists who elevate themselves to these positions, what's interesting about it is traditionally a music genre that is like kind of frowned upon by, we'll say, like mainstream media, the parents of suburbia,
Well, yeah,
the teachers and coaches, and this and that. But when you really look at the personalities, like a good amount of the Wu-Tang members are professors at colleges. They have books written about them. Jay-Z, like big business,
Two Chains
somebody
has
like,
like I think Two Chains has his master's degree.
yes,
Like
yes.
really intelligent guy.
Yes. And on top of that, doing great things for not only just like music in general, but like specifically for the youth. I think positions like that are incredibly powerful.
Well, I think that's also a little bit of a connotation on the fact that those guys made it. Like a lot of
Sure.
those guys are coming from um, not the best areas or not the best or a place that doesn't have the best opportunity, and for
Sure.
them to,
They made the opportunity.
yeah, they hustled, they worked hard, they have that work ethic and that like can do attitude. Might sound kind of cheesy, but like they were
Right.
able to put it together and get themselves where they are. So I think through that process you have to assume that they have gained some sort of knowledge to get there. Like they didn't get there at a chance.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's pretty wild, but um, not as shocking as, or it sounds more shocking than I think it is when you actually think deeper about it. I think on
Hmm.
surface level it's a surprise, but like you said, very downplayed by mainstream media. I mean, even in Damn, their Kendrick's album, there are all those different clips that he has from like Fox News, Geraldo Jimenez, like saying rap music has done more damage to the African American community in the past like decade than anything else. And it's like, nah, man,
Dude.
like
Those those
you're a
interludes are
clown.
scathing.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, they are scathing.
Um,
Um, yeah, to what you were saying, I don't agree with that at all. I think it is positive for the younger community to have people like that, and looping it all the way back to your like what you were originally saying with Ja Rule being the one to tweet this out and like show his support. Um, yeah, I think it's great that artists can and do get involved in that kind of stuff, because they can be um pivotal in swaying a uh a young uh the young masses, I guess you could just say,
Yeah,
you know.
definitely. And that's why I think it bothers me a lot when I see things like people when there have been like all these movements um, against like racists and like movements like Black Lives Matter and things like that, where people get mad at athletes on Twitter and on like social media and whatnot. They're like, LeBron, shut up and dribble. You're a basketball player. Like, I don't want to hear you talk about politics or whatever. It's like,
Right.
they should and can use their platform like anyone else. You and I have the same ability to have a platform as any other person out there. Why would we shut down like LeBron from talking about what he believes when you're not going to tell your neighbor George, like, shut the fuck up, George, you don't know what you're talking about? Like, why would we say that like they're people too, and these issues and just things in general affect them as well. So I've never prescribed myself to that notion of like celebrities shouldn't talk about things going on in the world. In my opinion, especially if it's something that affects them, they should speak out more because their platform does reach more people. I think that's a good thing. So,
Sure, and they can be kind of a voice for a maybe an undervoiced group, you could say.
I mean, definitely. So, but kind of staying on the music train, switching over a little bit. I saw there was another tweet that I saw that it reminded me of some deep seated anger, frustration with the music community. It was a tweet about Macklemore reflecting on winning the 2014 Best Rap Album over Kendrick. And he said, I guess the quote that they pulled from it was, "I was conflicted." And in all the comments, everyone just started going into the like from Damn, Kendrick's like poem at the end of his songs where he's like, "I was conflicted, misusing my influence. Sometimes I did the same." It was like, but the Heist winning that Best Rap Album award at the Grammys over Good Kid, Mad City is a travesty.
Well, and that, like, it's similar to and I don't know how much our viewers enjoy movies or know too much about it, but like that goes to the whole thing about the fucking Oscars too, where it's just like, why, who is voting? That's what I want to know.
Yeah,
and it creates these like weird storylines where the better piece of art didn't win.
Right.
But then on top of it, art's subjective, right?
Yeah.
I could rail up and down that King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, that their last album was the greatest piece of music ever put together, no matter the genre. You could disagree, and we could have that conversation for hours.
Oh, yeah.
So for there to even only be a conversation about 5 albums, the best one can only be from these things. Even that seems just kind of like a dumb conversation.
No,
then
I'm not a big award show person either, like in general, but still. But yeah, continue.
But I will say this: even subjectively, and to your point, I'm not a big, like, I don't put any stock in award shows at all. But yeah, whoever is putting fucking Macklemore over Kendrick any day, any week, any year, no matter what the album, no matter what the context, you're fucking crazy, and I'm never gonna trust your opinion about music ever again.
Well, like, seeing
it's
that
hardly
tweet,
a rap album.
It made me look up like the other albums that were up for the best album in the Grammys for that year.
What were they?
It was Macklemore and Ryan Lewis, The Heist. Nothing Was the Same by Drake.
Ooh.
Good Kid, Mad City by Kendrick. Magna Carta, Holy Grail by Jay-Z.
Even that.
And Yeezus
not better.
by Kanye.
not better. At
No,
all.
but
None
I
of them
would.
are better than Good Kid, Mad
But
City.
I would say Magna Carta and Yeezus are probably better than the Heist. Like,
Maybe
I
Magna Carta, not Yeezus.
the Heist would maybe be in top 3 of those 5.
What a shitty year. What a shitty year. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Where Macklemore gets to win a Grammy. That's cultural appropriation. Dude, no, I don't know. That's just crazy.
It just blew my mind when I saw it.
Wait, okay, so then what's the context? Like, why is he going back to it?
I don't know. I think it was let me see where this interview is from. Well, and I don't know if it got brought up because of Macklemore recently put out a freestyle, like, you know how Eminem does his freestyles and it'll be like in a parking garage or whatever.
Right.
But his whole thing was like about Trump being out of office, and it was like really bad, but it kind of, like, in my personal opinion, it wasn't good.
Okay.
I don't know if maybe that brought him back into the spotlight briefly and maybe someone interviewed him, but this interview was or I guess it was talked about by Up Rocks with Talib Kweli. I'm not really sure much about him.
Wait, what? You don't know who Talib Kweli is?
I know the name, but I don't know much about him.
Gotcha.
I wouldn't
okay.
be able to.
He's an older guy. He's old at this.
He's an old head.
Yeah. He's an old guy.
I do recognize the name, but I don't. Yeah, like, I wouldn't be able to tell you much about the guy in general.
That's okay.
But
Just
yeah,
know for future reference, it's Kweli, not Quelly.
Quali. Gotcha. I appreciate it. Hey, I appreciate it very much. I need
Welcome.
I need some direction sometimes. So
Dude.
I guess they were just going back, and he interviewed Macklemore and was talking about it. It's been 7 years since that Grammys. So
Oh, weird. Yo, isn't that crazy? Like, man, like, what a position you have to be in where the most relevant thing that happened to you was 7 years ago. That, like, the interviewer has to talk to you about that.
hey, I mean, I've never been relevant, so.
Brutal.
But yeah, the other music thing. This is just on a personal note, but I'm pumped for the Super Bowl halftime performance because Miley, my girl, is gonna be singing a couple songs from her new album.
She was topless on Rolling Stone recently.
She's beautiful. I would marry her in a heartbeat if she was down. I think she's phenomenal. So,
At my music award show, I would have a what do you call it? A category. I would have a category that was best voice, not singing voice, just best. Not even best voice, coolest voice.
Okay.
So it's even more subjective, and she would win every year.
I would agree. I think she's really phenomenal. Like, she and kind of talking about, like, artists who talk on topics and bring things to people's attention or whatever in the public. Like, her album talks a lot about, like, her sexuality, or, like, not a ton, but it goes into her sexuality, has some songs that talk about, like, being, like, I guess pansexual. Like, she just loves people. Like, she loves, she's not, like, subjective about, like, male, female, like, whatever. Like, she just, like, loves people.
Any finger in any hole.
Exactly.
She doesn't care who it belongs to,
no,
where it's going.
Not that she doesn't care who it belongs to, but I would say, like, gender does not play a preference or change her preference in terms of.
You got a tentacle, stick it in there.
Hey, you never know.
She's a fan of the peanut butter trick.
Don't knock it till you try it.
I never tried that.
No.
I'm pretty sure that's animal cruelty, actually. Just saying.
I am. I'm just memeing at this point, but
I hope so.
yeah, no, gotta make sure that's clear. But
But
no,
the album is pretty good, you said.
yeah, it was solid. I enjoyed it. It's definitely different. It's like a rock album more so than her typical pop. So I
Right.
enjoyed it. But yeah, I'm excited for that, and so that I just wanted to mention that because that's my own personal opinion, and I think the people
Ah.
should hear.
Hey, fair enough. I mean, no shame in chilling for Billy Ray Cyrus's daughter.
Absolutely.
Well, okay.
Well,
Before you move on.
go for it.
Okay, so this is kind of what I was getting at in our pre-show chat about like having similarly structured things. And I guess the one thing I really liked about Sam Morril and Mark Norman's podcast is the recommendation thing that they do for each other. Like they'll talk about the drinks, they'll talk about their day and whatever the fuck, but the one thing that they'll do is they'll do a recommendation to each other.
Okay.
They've recommended books, they've recommended movies, they've recommended documentaries, they've just like bounced a couple things back and forth. And that's kind of the idea that I really liked, where I feel like, you know, we're always like watching something or seeing something or listening to something or whatever, and I just feel like that'd be a fun thing to talk about, where it's like, hey, what's your recommendation for the week? Oh, I saw this. Oh, I heard that. And then we bounce it back and forth, and then we, you know, learn something new and find something different.
I dig
Like
it.
the like that Miley Cyrus's new record. I
It's called
probably
Plastic
would
Hearts.
Plastic Hearts.
Yep.
I probably wouldn't have checked it out, but now that you're talking about it, it's kind of like a recommendation. I'm gonna go listen to it.
Yeah,
But yeah, so no, I think moving forward, I think that'd be kind of a fun thing to do.
I'm down. And so it got really off track of how, I guess, where I wanted to go, but I had a couple of what I'll call them shower thoughts recently.
Nice. Okay.
And so
Okay.
this I wanted to hit before going through all the music stuff, but we were just in a flow, so it is what it is.
That's fine.
But the other day I had a brief like existential crisis, and this is like completely different topic, but I don't know why, but I started thinking about comets like that fly through the sky, and I'm like, it was really bothering me trying to like not knowing how they come to be, if that
How a
makes sense.
comet comes to be, or an extinction level event?
Like a comet, because a
Okay.
comet, like, it's basically just dust and ice, but for there to be ice, like,
It's like a snowball. It
has
starts
to be like
little and then it.
water. But like how does one form? So I was like trying to fall asleep, and I like, this was really messing with me, so I had to look it up. And it's one of those things that even though I read how it works, it still doesn't make sense to me in my brain. It's basically like dust particles, like the gravity towards each other pulls them together, and then they form into this like thing, and then it goes like, gets bigger and gets pulled by a gravitational field of something and just goes like flying. But just the thought about like the process of how long that has to take for all these little bits of dust that are just floating in through space to like collect into this giant thing, and then also go hurtling around. Like Halley's Comet loops around our solar system every like, I don't know, 110 years or something stupid like that.
Yeah.
And like
Arguably, it'd be bigger every time it comes around.
that, and just like, how did it, like, all these things like clumped together, and then it just like got pulled by our sun, and it now is doing this giant like ellipse around it kind of boggles my mind. But I just had to mention that because it threw me for a loop, and I thought it was a really bizarre thing that I hadn't thought about, and I'm like, weird. I'll tell Justin.
Well, I I don't know much about comets. I don't know much about Halley's Comet, but what that makes me think of is aliens, obviously.
Okay.
Now, have you ever come across the story of Bob Lazar?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I watched the
Fuck
whole
yeah.
Netflix docu series that they had about Area 51 and all. And wasn't that, didn't that come out? And then there was that whole meme about people wanting to storm Area 51.
Yeah,
That
I
was like
think
around
they
the same time.
I believe so, yeah. I believe so.
Well, and then like
Um
during quarantine when the pandemic was like at the height of everything, the US government was like, "Oh, by the way, UFOs are real," and no one noticed.
right. Right. Dude, yes. That's exactly what I wanted to say about it cuz there was a period where and I was like hooked in. I was locked in when Rogan had
That's what it was.
yes.
Yes.
And it so it was Bob Lazar and Jeremy fucking Scooterson. I don't know what his name is, but he was the maker of he made the documentary that was on
Yes.
Netflix.
Yep.
And hearing so I did like a kind of a deep dive on it. So I watched that Rogan interview and was just convinced by him himself just sitting in the chair telling the story. And like the way Rogan was bouncing off of him and the documentary guy, and it was all I was just like, I believe you. And go ahead.
I was just gonna say, listening to him actually talk about it and everything, it it's so far fetched. It's still tough for me to believe, but I don't think he is lying.
Right.
Like,
Do, doesn't it seem a little more vindicated now though after the US government comes out and says like, yeah, we have ships. They're not from here.
yeah, it's weird because like I still prescribe myself to the I forget what it's called, but the philosophy of like civilizations not being able to get past the point to have interstellar travel or intergalaxy travel. There's a theory that a civilization, like, I think we may have mentioned it before on the pod, but civilization, you have to be like, there are certain tiers that
Yeah, talk about the
are.
Kardashev scale.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. I still kind of prescribe myself to the fact that I don't know if any civilization. I don't know if there is anything out there in terms of materials, fuel, things like that, that are physically able to allow us to harness what we need to travel intergalactically, especially at the speed that we would need to for the organism in that ship ship to not die during the time frame, because the amount of time it takes to, like, light years are, like, if you travel at the speed of light, like, light years are still crazy long. Like, to get from here to the next galaxy is like, I don't know, like 10,000 light years or something crazy like that. Like, how could an
Right.
organism last through that travel to even be able to reach said point? And I'm also basing
Oh, I
everything
know.
off of our knowledge of like lifespans here on Earth and things like
Right.
that. So
Well,
like,
you're right though. Meat sacks are incredibly just like inefficient
we're
for that.
fragile. Like,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
so so
Upgrade the gray matter, man.
I have
Just fucking go to the machine.
I have trouble
Then we are
believing.
infinite.
I don't have trouble believing that aliens are a possibility. I
Right.
have trouble believing that we have been reached by them.
Wait, maybe that's the misconception though. Maybe we haven't been reached. Maybe we got accidentally landed on. Like just exactly what you were talking about with the comet.
Maybe they launched a ship, the things died, and it just kept hurtling and eventually got here. Who knows?
Right. Caught different gravitational fields.
Yep.
Yeah. I would imagine we weren't like sought out or like encountered. I imagine they didn't mean to be here.
Right. If we do have like outer space ships from other planets or whatever, I don't think there was any intention. And another thing that I saw recently that made me question some stuff is like there's all these like stories and different historians and things like that talk about how there's no way that we had the engineering and mathematics and whatnot to create like the pyramids or like these different things, Stonehenge, yada yada yada, around the world.
Right.
But also at the same time, like we're still like geometry and trigonometry and so a lot of these mathematics and things like that are like centuries old that were like founded in the Middle East and things like that. And then also talking about Joe Rogan, he had that one archaeologist who studied the Sphinx and the water patterns on it that basically dated the Sphinx to be much, much older than the pyramids were.
Right.
And he also talked about these solar mass ejections where every like 10,000 years the sun shoots out all these crazy like solar bursts, and like those things happen normally, but they don't really affect us that much.
Right.
But these solar mass ejections happen apparently every 10,000 years or so, and they cause like crazy lightning storms all over the earth and yada 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 that could wipe out like civilizations and things like that. So it's possible that previous civilizations of humanoids on Earth had much greater technology than we are aware of, to be able to do some of these things.
Right.
And yeah, so I kind of believe that the aliens, if we have ships, I don't think that there were living things in them by the time they got here. I don't think aliens built the pyramids or anything like that, but I'm not ruling out aliens as a possibility.
Interesting. Okay. No, I think that's a pretty reasonable stance to take on it. I think that's pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
And to be fair, that's probably where I'm at too.
Like, I think it's cool thinking about aliens and the potential for things like that.
Right.
I just don't know if I actually like can fully.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't fully dive in like that. But Bob Lazar was definitely very convincing in his story, and I think whether or not everything he said is factual, I do truly believe that he believes it, and in that sense, it's not a lie.
Right.
So.
But you're saying that there could be a discrepancy between what he actually saw and what he believes he saw.
Right. In my opinion. And honestly, I'm an idiot, so I could be completely wrong and off base, and if so, Bob, like, I owe you an apology, but friend of the show, Bob Lazar.
I feel like we're gonna use that joke one too many times, and it's gonna get us in trouble.
Ugh.
Like we're gonna get a call from somebody and be like, "You gotta pay us for that." And we're gonna be like, "Ooh."
Edit the clip.
Take it down. Fuck it.
Scrub the episode.
Oh, that's funny. But no, yeah, I just have I have Bob Lazar in the back of my head, like a good amount. It's just like I want to believe it so bad because it's so improbable that I believe him. I'm like, you're the guy. You're the
Yeah,
guy that's been able to bridge the gap. I don't know.
it's super interesting to like think about and like just kind of mull over a little bit. So
Well, speaking of shower thoughts, I guess that's like kind of what I was getting at is like he's a shower thought of mine as well, where I'm like, yeah, what's that guy up to?
yeah, definitely an interesting one. But the other shower thought that I had recently that I want your opinion on because I feel like I do this differently than most people.
Okay.
But on a 1 to 10 scale, how
Yeah.
is your scale laid out? Like, obviously 1 through 10. But, like, for me, the other day I tried the new.
What are we rating? Just
So,
anything.
anything. So I prescribe
Okay.
myself to the same um, methodology with my scales for anything. So, like, and obviously everything's subjective, but for instance, the other day, my friend had told me that she really, like, that she had tried the new Truly iced tea seltzers. And they have,
Okay.
like, a peach, a raspberry, lemon, and some
Arnold Palmer.
strawberry, I think. So, yeah, an Arnold Palmer seltzer, but, like, flavored iced teas, like raspberry and peach and whatnot.
Okay.
And I said, after trying them, well, I bought them, and then she was like, "Yeah, I actually don't like them that much." And I was like, "Well, thanks for telling me after I bought them." But,
Hmm.
but when I tried them, I'm like,
Unreliable narrator.
I told her I'm like, "Oh, like I rate this one a 4, this one a 4.5, this one a 5," and she's like, "Oh, I wouldn't rate them that bad." But for me, like 5 is the middle of the scale. 5 is average. Like 5 is like I would drink it. I don't hate it, but it's not good. Like I'm not going to seek it out, but it's fine. Like I feel like most people they're at something that's average, they rate like a 6 or a 7. But like for
Ah,
me, like
okay.
for me I hold a 10 in a very high regard. Like people will
Right.
be like, "Oh, 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 10 out like no, like there are very few things in my personal scales that are a 10.
Right.
Like
Yeah, S tier is pretty hard to hit.
you have to earn that. Like I'm not just going
Yeah.
to be like, "Oh, this is a 10 because it's better than everything else." I'm going to say this is a 10 because it's the best thing I think of this whatever I'm rating. Like
Right.
but I feel like other people don't prescribe and obviously it's kind of a stupid thing like everyone has their own subjective scales and yada but
Right.
but
But no, I
for
think I'm with you. I've noted like um an o we trend towards overhype or underhype. And I think you're getting at like you try and be um more reasonable and not go to extremes.
yeah like for instance like if I'm rating and not to hopefully get canceled but if I'm saying how attractive I think someone is
Mm.
and I say someone's a 5 for
Mm.
me I'm like oh like they're average looking there's nothing that I'm like super but a 5 sounds bad
Give
if
me an
you're
example of a 5.
trying to think of like because I'm trying to think of like people who would be um like well enough known but that's a tough one actually to like find someone who I think is like perfectly like average.
Right.
I will have to come back to this because
Okay.
I'm gonna have to think on that a little bit. I don't want to just drag out the episode with me and thought.
We're just like perpetually judging a fictional woman until we can come up with the name of somebody.
Yeah.
That'd be a great episode. Okay, so no, you were saying though that calling somebody average is mean, so people are gonna lean towards like, oh, but she's like a 7.
Yeah, like I think like if you're like rating someone's attractiveness, people will be like, yeah, like say like a 6 or 7 for someone who's like average looking. They're not like super attracted to them or anything. They're just like,
Right.
oh, like it's another person kind of thing. Like,
Right.
where, as for me, if I said like someone's a 5, and for me that would be like, oh, you're just like a normal person. Like you're not hideous. You're not like gorgeous. Like you're just like you're just moving along like myself. Like,
Right.
I,
Just moving along. That's
yeah,
funny.
like you're just going through life. You're just like me, like any other person. Like you could pass them on the street and you won't think a second thing about it.
Unmemorable, you might say.
I mean,
Average, couldn't pick him out of a lineup.
and I mean everyone like is, I guess, and this is why I didn't necessarily want to go straight to the like rating people's attractiveness and things like that,
Okay,
as
so
opposed
then,
to like the like drinks and things like that. But
all right, so let's stop being mean then.
I don't think we're being mean. We didn't single anyone out.
No, it's true. But okay, so what about video games? Give me a definite. Give me a 10 in your mind of video games and a 1 in your mind of video games. Because I would like to answer your question and maybe see if how we scale things like differently.
Okay.
Right?
So like for me, I don't know if I have any like 10 video games, but a really highly rated one that most people would probably agree
So you're saying
on.
you may not even have a 10.
I may not even have a 10.
Okay.
Because
That's something.
I don't. Not every category has something that I think is going to be better than everything else. Like, I don't think that there's maybe that every category has a be all, end all, be all, whatever the saying is, like top, this is the pinnacle of whatever kind of thing.
Interesting.
But I mean, for one, like Mario Kart Double Dash for the GameCube, really highly rated for me. I could play that game so many times. It's a blast. I always have fun with it. Like, it's can be challenging. It can be fun. It kind of hits a lot of the different marks for like what I would say, like you can play with people, you can play by yourself, like you can do. It kind of checks a lot of boxes of what I think a really good video game would be.
Okay.
And I don't think there's anything that's necessarily like broken about it or like unfair or whatever. Like the system is really well made. And so in that sense, I would say that's like a really highly rated video game. A really low rated video game, that might be a little more difficult. But usually things that are just like broken. And like the one that immediately comes to mind for me is something that most people probably haven't played, but it was a Game Boy Advance game. It was the Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring game. And for the most part, the gameplay was like relatively, it was very like almost Final Fantasy ish, where you're traveling around a world and then you get into these combats and each player attacks separately. And
like the turn-based thing.
Yeah, but they're in the middle of the game, you get to a part where you have to complete a puzzle, and either the game had a glitch that was not fixed that didn't allow you to complete the puzzle, or that point in the game was just immensely more difficult than every other section of the game leading up to it.
Okay.
That it was like next to impossible. I never finished the game.
Okay.
And I tried a number of times. I tried going back to it years later and trying to complete it. When I was like, oh, maybe I was just some stupid little kid who like couldn't figure it out or whatever.
Right.
And so like that's a really low rated game for me because it was like the gameplay was very consistent up till that point, and then it got like brick wall impossible to get past.
Right.
And I'm like, that's a bad game. Like you don't do that. You don't.
Okay.
You don't like build up the skills through like and like growth of how to play the game, and then all of a sudden you're just like, oh, well, here is an impossible task. Like,
okay.
So
I think I'm beginning to understand your scale.
Yeah. So like. Yeah, so I was just curious about like your thoughts on these scales and talking it out, because I feel like my scale, I try to be very evenly spread when I rate things and not like rate things like super high or low or just like polarized. Like I try to personally give what I find are fair ratings, but also like 5 is the middle of the scale. 5 is my average.
Right.
And I feel like most people do not prescribe to that same train of thought.
I think with your logic in mind, then a lot of things fall in that like 5.1 to 5.8 range.
Yeah,
like everything is average then.
A lot of things, yeah.
Right.
I would say more.
Okay.
More things are towards the middle, but that's the point. It's a bell curve.
It's more realistic. Yeah. That's more realistic. You're not embellishing anything. You're not using hyperbole, one might say.
Well, yeah, because like, what if I say something's like a 10 out of 10, and someone's like, oh, like, no, that's not. I mean, obviously, it's all subjective still at the end of the day. But if I'm telling someone a rating of something, I want it to be relatively accurate to what I feel about the thing. I don't want to just, like, be disingenuous by giving skewed ratings.
Well, okay. That makes me think of a couple things. Number one, it makes me think of... It makes me think that your... Your... Okay. I think okay. So where my head goes to when I think about ratings is a conversation that's often had in the Magic community, namely in Commander, is what is the power level of your deck?
Okay. What kind of scale is it? Out of 100? Is it out of
1 through 10?
1 through 10. Okay.
Yeah. So, well, that's the most compelling and really the only one we have right now. There's been some conversation around some other scales and what they could be, but overall 1 through 10, the one that the Command Zone, a popular Magic Commander related podcast, they have their power scale kind of laid out, and that tends to be a good template for people to use, like in their own play groups. Okay. Now, I believe that my thinking is very similar to yours when it comes to ranking things, and I'll use that Magic scale to kind of represent that. Okay. And I think you'll see a lot of parallels in your thinking as well.
Gotcha.
So, Wizards of the Coast makes a Commander Precon every year, a pre-constructed deck, 100 cards with a new commander and maybe some new cards that they sell in stores that you could crack right out of the box and sit down and play a game of Commander with.
So I'm assuming on my scale that would be a 5.
That's exactly a 5.
Okay.
That's where I'm at with a 5, and that tends to be everybody's consensus, right?
Okay.
The pre-constructed decks straight out of the box, no additions, they're about a 5. They have some powerful cards, they have some good stuff in there, but it doesn't rely on just one of the strategies. You see like 3 different decks within those 100 cards.
So
because they give you
like you guys talk about how you guys have tuned your decks and they're for certain strategies. They're like a quick hitter, or like you have the Nagila deck that it's like you have this strategy that once you hit that point, it's just done.
Right,
kind
it's a
of thing.
deterministic win. Yeah,
It's not a gradual, like slow overpowering kind of thing.
Right.
It's like
right.
yeah.
So with that, I would say that Nagila in our play group, and again, I think it's important to note like subjective differences, right? Like my 9 isn't going to be the same as one of the Commander content creators that I watched. They're called Play to Win, and my 9 would be very different from what they would call a 9, right? Because their meta, their play group is different. Right. They have different, different norms. But as far as just like general regular Commander, kind of the Commander that we play in our play group, even though the decks are tuned, we're still kind of in the same waters that everybody else would be in. So I say that to say we probably play somewhere around like 8s and 9s at this point.
Okay.
Where we wouldn't want to be playing against precons. It would be a bit of a blowout kind of thing.
Gotcha. Well, and that makes sense. Like,
right.
Yeah.
And then the other end of the scale, down at 1, like you said with a game, it's something that's just like kind of broken. It's literally just a pile of 100 cards that are similar in color, maybe theme a little bit, or maybe just cards that you had in your binder, no real tuned theme to it, right?
Yeah.
So that tends to be like my scale. That's the scale that I tend to operate with most.
Okay.
And yeah, we find because budget is a factor, what we find is most decks for most people are gonna range in the 4 to 7 range, and then if you have more money to put towards the game, you can hit the 8 and the 9.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And
but it would be like crazy expensive to build a 10 deck at this point in Magic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Those are a lot of money.
Yeah. So
those
like
are a lot of money.
And that's the like that does prescribe to my thoughts on it, because like you need something crazy, whether it's financially or just special in terms of pulls and yada yada, to have a 10. Like it has extenuating circumstances to be that good of something.
Right.
Like I can't just be like tacos are a 10 out of 10 food for me. Like it would have, I don't know, like it would have to be something like, I like tacos a lot.
Are there any 10s in your life? Are there any 10s in your life at all? Across anything?
I would say that there were 2 restaurants that I went to when I traveled to Spain back at the end of 2019. We went to a Michelin star restaurant for one of our meals. Which, I mean, honestly, it was like, I think 9 courses, and it was only 75 euros per person. So like for going on a vacation, like a $75 meal is really like, it's expensive, but it's not outrageous.
You could do worse to your wallet, that's for sure.
And some of the food that was
That
in
sounds
that
sick,
like
though.
9 course or however many course. Like I have pictures of all of it on my phone, and it was like I would say some of it was like a 10. Like there was this. It was like a clam. It was like a clam with like this tiger milk sauce on it or something. It was just crazy, and it was like things I've never heard of, but it was
Right.
just phenomenal. And there was also a restaurant we went to a couple times that was Michelin recommended, so it's not like doesn't meet all the criteria for a
Right.
Michelin star, but the
It's like the
food
minor
is like,
leagues.
but the food quality is like that good. And some of the
Whoa.
food we had there was we went there a couple times while because it was near where we were staying in Madrid. And some of the food there, I would say, is like that's probably the closest for like food that I've had to a 10, if not being a 10 for me.
Okay.
And so yeah, I would say like there are some tens out there for me, but there's not they're
Mm,
very few and far between. And some of my like
right.
different categories of things that I follow or enjoy or whatever are there's no 10. Faker in League is a 10 for me.
Right.
There might be a couple other players. Uzi, I would say 10 on my scale. But there are very few things to me that quite meet that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so then yeah, you want to be very scientific about when you give a ranking.
Yeah.
Then okay, no, I respect that a whole lot. I can appreciate that. Yeah, and I think about what you said. The common sense is what's common around you.
Mm.
Like I appreciate that you've been to a Michelin star restaurant and like that's your 10, right?
Yeah.
Like so not only you're allowed to have a scale, right? But then
Mm.
furthermore, your scale is also a bit educated, right? Like you could
Yeah.
say you have a bit of a like you have a more sophisticated palate
Than some people.
for
But
for
yeah.
just having experienced that meal.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's based on like but the other thing that I consider when ranking things is like if I give something a 10, what
Right.
happens when I come across something that's better than that? Does it break the scale or do I just rate them the same? Do I just give it a 10?
Turn it up to 11, mate.
Like, but if it's a 1 to 10 scale, like,
No, you're right. You're right.
that's another reason that I don't want to, that I try to be more central in my scales because, like, I haven't
Yeah.
experienced everything out there. So,
Right.
like, what if I do have run across something that beats that? And yeah, so I mean, I know I could probably talk about this for a long ass time,
No,
but
it's interesting though. It's interesting.
but that's my thought process when I think about it, and I didn't recognize it until I was like, oh, like this one's like a 4.5, this one's a 5 for these seltzers, and my friend was like, oh, and she's like, I wouldn't rate them that badly, and I don't really like them, and I was like, yeah, they're like average. Like that's
Right.
my, and then it kind of clicked in my head. I was like, I'm using a different scale than other people are.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Well, people totally edge on this side of like just black and white, I think. Like either you like it or you don't. There's no even in between. And then I think of like when everything is lit, is
Nothing.
anything lit? You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing.
If everyone's a hero, no one is.
Exactly.
That is
Exactly.
Syndrome from The Incredibles.
He was pretty cool. He had the rocket boots.
It was kind of wild, honestly. He turned himself into a hero, which is, or well, into super person. Um,
Right.
or I think his thing is, if everyone's super, then no one is. That's what it is.
Yes.
If
Yeah, yeah,
everyone's
yeah.
super.
Well, and that's kind of the same thing where like if you're living where everything is the best thing you've ever had and every day is like the best day of your life, I'm kind of concerned,
Yeah,
you know? Things should be average.
yeah. There's so, and that average isn't like, I think people think of average negatively too. Average is not like, it's not good or bad
Right.
in my personal opinion.
Hmm. I don't know, man.
Well,
Average.
I guess you could say average is bad in a sense that it doesn't stand out, or it's not. There's nothing particularly like special about it. But
Right.
I wouldn't. I personally don't think average is bad, because I think average is just like, it's just, average is part of life. There, if you're talking about people again, there are going to be people that you walk past across the street and they do not make any notable impression on your thoughts. They're just another person you passed on the street. You won't remember them in 5 minutes. You won't remember them in a year. But then there's
Right.
plenty of people that you will come across in life, and whether it's their looks, their personality, their the way they impact you and affect your life, that you like, they are notable to you, and in that sense they are not average. Um, so like, I would say, if you're talking about people, each person is not going to be average to everyone,
Right.
but average
Not
is
in
kind of
God's eyes, anyway.
average is kind of the norm.
It is, and you're not afraid to say that.
Doesn't bother me at all.
Right. Okay. No, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think interesting.
Yeah. It's a weird thought that I've put a lot of thought into since it clicked in my head.
Well,
And
I'm
then
curious.
I realized that it's something that I've been doing for like, with how I've rated things for a while. It's just like how I've done it. And then I was like, oh, I started thinking about it more. So,
How much are you actively rating things?
not that frequently, but I've just like, I think I noticed like a pattern. Um, when I started thinking about it, I noticed a pattern of like my thought process when I have rated things, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
Like, I don't go around every day being like, oh, this is a 6, this is a 4. That's a
Yeah, I feel like you just have a notebook somewhere of like all these tallies of like that lady was a 4.5, that man was a 7.3. Just
No,
like ratings.
it's more so when I think about like the act of like making a ranking or anything. Like, even for instance, and this is something I've been going through. So I noticed like my Spotify, I had, I don't know, like 600 songs in my like liked playlist,
Mhm.
and Spotify's weird, and it just like will, the algorithm plays songs that you've listened to more frequently in your shuffled stuff. It's not purely random,
Right.
which annoys me. um, but I noticed this, and the problem is like it playing. If I shuffle like my liked songs, I'll hear the same songs a bunch, and then that means that they've played more. So then in the shuffle, it will play those same songs more frequently because
Right.
and it just like compounds the problem.
It's a bit self-fulfilling.
Yeah, so I decided to unlike every song and start creating. I wrote down all the different artists that um, I have like multiple songs of in that liked playlist as I was like going through and wiping it.
Right.
And I've been trying to go back through and slowly put them in categorized like playlists for myself based on like what kind of style or mood or whatever. So like I've been so
Interesting.
like
So
I
you're trying
was
to build your own playlists.
yeah, and not just like have a collection of like random songs where it could range from a song by it could range from Atlantic City by the band to Can't Be Tamed by Miley Cyrus to
Right.
like High Power by Kendrick. Like
Right.
I so I've been slowly putting together my rap playlist now, and I've been just going through each like artist that I have on my list and putting their like going through and hitting like my top songs of their of all of their collection that's on Spotify
Right.
into these like different playlists. And so like
Interesting.
yeah, it's not necessarily like a rating, but I've been like going through and actively like seeking out things that I like enjoy from each artist. And also
Right.
like for instance my playlist I've focused on recently is my rap one. So I hit like so far I've gone through Kendrick's um, catalog. I went through Logic. I went through
Oh.
ASAP Rocky. I went through Future, which really the only music from Future that I've uh, enjoyed enough to put in a playlist like that are from his mixtape with Drake. And it's also the only music from Drake that I will actually listen to is that
What a time to
mixtape.
be alive.
So
Dude, literally just the title of that album is funny. And
yeah,
just thinking about like all the memes and how many jokes, like that in and of itself is a punchline, and that's not a good place to be, fam.
no, it's not.
No.
But yeah,
That's
I mean,
funny
my
though.
distaste for Drake and Future for the most part, I'm like I can't understand a lot of what he says. So for a lot of his, I mean, not the mumble rap genre is not the top of my list for things I enjoy.
No.
So
No, neither for me.
Future kind of leans towards that a little bit in some of his stuff. But
Right.
that specific mixtape, I enjoy a few songs off it. So I've gone through that. But then I noticed like Mac Miller with his music, like I have some stuff that's in my rap playlist from most of his earlier albums,
Right.
but then in swimming and circles, the music that I enjoy from that, even though it's Mac, I'm not putting in my rap playlist. That's going to be in more like my like chill,
Right.
relaxing, or
Right.
like even
It's
like
not bars.
yeah, it's not like hard. It's not like rap.
Right.
It's still music I enjoy, but I'm trying to like it's a different style, so I'm trying to like put that where I feel it belongs. So it's
Sure.
kind of the same idea as the scale, but just I, in a different sense of like categorizing
Right.
things. So
Huh.
yeah, so I've been actively doing that. And I have like my list in front of me. So like I've been trying to go through like one artist every couple days. So I got through Mac Miller recently. I want to go through Childish Gambino, Vince Staples, Kid Cudi, J. Cole, Stormzy, Post Malone, like Tyler the Creator. So just mentioning like the rappers or grime artists that I want to put into that playlist. But I want it to be a large collection so that when I hit shuffle, it's all the songs that I do enjoy. So I'm not going to be like hitting skip on things that I'm not in the mood for. I can pick like a
Right.
playlist for specific how like what I want to listen to, like
And then
how I'm
just let it go.
yeah, exactly.
Interesting. So in that you've been creating in that you're having to like rank things even subconsciously, so it's just kind of
Right.
like been on
Like,
your mind a
is
lot.
this good enough that I want to have it in that rotation? Because obviously
Right.
there are going to be times where I'll go back through and listen to an album of Kendrick's straight through, or an
Right.
album of Max straight through.
But a lot of times a whole album is a whole vibe, right?
Right.
They're meant to be together.
Yeah, but there are still some that are gonna like
Like ketchup and mustard.
there. There's still gonna be some that stick out more that I enjoy more across an album. More
Yeah.
bops.
Yeah, of course. More slappers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like I want playlists that I can just have like general listening to, like when I'm just like driving to work or like going to the
Right.
grocery store. I can just throw this on and I know that I'll get 3 songs that I like enjoy from that, like the mood I'm in.
Gotcha. That are total
Whereas like
gas,
yeah, whereas like if
not
I'm
fives.
going on like a road trip or something, I can throw on a whole album, play it
Right.
all the way through, and just enjoy the vibe of that album.
Right.
So
Interesting. Okay, I like that.
yeah, I think it's for me like with music, I get into moods of what I want to listen to, and a
Right.
lot of times it's based on season, weather, um, or just like my emotional state at the time. Like
Mhm.
whether I'm like upbeat, whether I'm kind of down, whether I'm like. So I'll listen to different music based on that. I don't have something that I just is like something I always am like, I'm just going to this. Like some days I'll sit through, or some days previously with all these songs in my liked playlist, I would just be sitting there driving and just like have my one hand on the wheel, the other hand just on my phone, and just be like hitting the skip button again and again. And I'm just like,
Right.
nope, not it. Nope, not that vibe. Nope. And just keep skipping through until I find something I'm
Uh,
like, okay, yeah,
okay, I know the
I
feeling.
want to be able to have
Gotcha.
something curated that I can be like, I'm in the mood for like punk rock and
Right.
just
And then
like
so it's all
jam
right
out and
there.
like, yeah.
Interesting. Okay, no, I can definitely appreciate that. I had something very similar on one of the music platforms that I was using. I had a bunch of different playlists. And yeah, it's a good organizational tool, and I think you'll find um like great value in setting it up like that. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really cool.
And well, and also like I can find playlists that have the genres of music or the styles of music that I want to on
Right.
Spotify, but it's not going to be the music necessarily that like I jam to or the
Right.
artists that I'm like I may find new things here and there that I'm like, "Oh, I like that." But sometimes I'm just in the mood to hear what I like want to hear. So,
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting, man. Yeah,
yeah.
that's kind of been my MO with music. I never went to the like iTunes Genius, never did Spotify, Pandora, never did that. Like the idea of having a computer try and figure out what my optimal listening experience is was a total joke to me. Like
It
I was
drives
never
me nuts.
yeah. I was never going to. It's, it's like having. It's like listening to the radio, just like with kind of a worse DJ actually.
Yeah.
And I never got that vibe. So yeah, I just stuck to just having all my own. You know.
Yeah. Like at part of the reason that I noticed it with Spotify specifically was like Spotify has this thing called Your Daily Drive,
Yeah.
which it plays like it's a mix of like podcast stuff and your music that um, that you enjoy or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
the songs don't change. So like every day I hop in my car to go to work and I throw this on because I get a 5-minute NPR podcast that tells me about what's going on in world news. I get a
Right.
1 minute long BBC podcast. I get this thing called The Daily where it talks about, it's by the New York Times and it has a different
Nice.
story or a different like theme that they're talking about. And so like during the election there was a lot of stuff, but it hit like different areas of it. It wasn't just like politics. It was like, oh, talking about this specific person who was involved in this party and what their progression through their career has been in
Right.
terms of these things or whatever. But it was always, it would be like NPR and then 4 songs. And the songs every single day would just be like the same exact thing. Like boom, 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 boom. I'm like, I don't want to listen to the same 4 songs in the same exact order that also do not have any sort of theme to bring them together other than their songs that I've liked and listened to a few times or a number of
Right.
times, that they're just like up top played song, boom 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 boom, here you listen to that every single day. No, like
That's rough.
yeah. So I like still listen to the thing, but I just end up skipping every song and just listening to the news stuff to get like my
Right.
morning started and like stay up to date with current events and yeah and like all that stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it sounds like your ranked career, right? Just totally always changing the flavor of what you had going on.
Very true.
Yeah.
I said it last episode.
Themes and patterns, man.
Monotony is not my friend.
No, it doesn't sound like it is.
Yeah. So,
Nice.
but I know that was some long tangents, but that's
No, that's
just
totally fine. I mean, what else is our podcast supposed to be? It's just
true. It's
we're
the tall
here to
and the
talk
short
about
of it.
whatever.
I
Yeah.
gave a lot of the tall right there.
Well,
A lot of
I'm
long-winded descriptions of my thoughts.
I'd be curious, do you think you'd have enough? Do you think you could do like top 25 hip hop artists in your mind? Like, do you think we could do something like that?
I could put something together. I wouldn't be able to do it just right off the dome.
Right.
I could probably do something like that, yeah.
Interesting.
25, 25 might be a lot. I feel like I would probably be, I mean, I know there's so many artists, but of ones that I have um, an extensive knowledge of, I would probably try and limit myself to maybe 10 to 15.
Okay.
Just because I don't want to put things out there about artists that I don't feel like I know enough about or have as
okay.
much of a knowledge of to give an informed opinion.
Fair enough. Okay.
Or to even have formed my own opinion about.
Right.
There may be artists I've like listened to a bunch, so I could give like maybe my like favorite or my top like 10 to 15 and rate.
Well, yeah,
rank
that's
them.
all it would be.
But not like a who I think are like the best, the goats. And
Well, to be fair, I think lists like that are pretty useless.
I would agree. But yeah, I
Yeah.
could probably give like a solid 10 to 15 of my like favorite artists. I would
Yeah, I
enjoy
think that would
I would
be-
enjoy doing that experiment, putting that together.
Dude, let's do top 15. Doesn't even have to be, let's say it doesn't have to be hip hop artists or rappers.
Okay.
Top 15 like musicians / musical acts.
Okay.
And then the side B of that conversation, what if we do, and I'm going to limit it, top 7 albums.
Okay.
15 musicians slash musical acts, and then top 7 albums. And
Okay.
anybody who's listening, tell us in the comments what maybe your favorite musician is, what your favorite album is, weigh in on the conversation. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think coming at you next week, that's what we're gonna have. We're gonna have a little musical corner.
I definitely am down for that. And that
That's
also,
sweet.
like, we can kind of go along with what you're talking about bouncing and giving recommendations. We would love, I personally would love to hear some recommendations of things to check out
Agreed.
from you all listeners. I am always willing to give something a try at least once. So I'm willing to give anything a shot. So, hey, hit us up in the comments. Let us know what to check out, what you're vibing with, and I will definitely give it a listen.
Yeah, yeah, definitely looking forward to that. To hear, what you guys have in your headphones. Music, podcasts, news reports, whatever you got.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but yeah, now there were some kind of topics that we wanted to hit this evening. I'm sure we can shave off a little bit of it, but
Oh, yeah.
did you want to get into the LCS lock-in tournament before we
Yeah.
head out of here?
Yeah, absolutely. So LCS lock-in on Friday, we had 100 Thieves versus Cloud9, and that series, it was a roller coaster. I mean, it 100 Thieves started out really strong. They looked really good, and then C9 was able to come back and pull the classic C9 and do a reverse sweep.
Yep,
Um,
pretty good.
really good series, and it kind of matched like my, I think, and your expectations that we mentioned last week. Um, we expected a pretty close series overall. I didn't see a large leaning to either side, but the early games, I was really impressed, honestly, by 100 Thieves bot lane. FBI looked really good, especially on the Misfortune.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he like that was he was a standout in those first couple of games for me, and I was not expecting that. I thought that C9's bot lane was gonna be decently favored in the matchup, but they looked really good there. Um, and as we kind of saw through Worlds, and now are seeing through the lock-in tournament, the global ultimates were like super prevalent,
Right.
which I enjoyed. What did you think of the series?
I found it to be very exciting. I think a lot of that excitement came from some of the champion picks that we were able to see. I really liked the Yone picks from Cloud9.
Mm,
Um, Also, to your point about the global ultimates, Twisted Fate was 100% pick banned.
yeah.
Um, so that's definitely noteworthy. Also factors into the finals that we had as well.
Mm,
So seeing Yon was pretty cool. I like the Vayne pick in the last game. I thought that was very exciting. Overall, yeah, like you said, the series kind of went how we thought it would. Um, Total standout though was the Uter jungle.
yeah.
Uh, that was totally unexpected. I mean, I I would imagine if players were paying attention to like ranked from the pros and Korea and stuff, I imagine that's something that's been going on. But I didn't
It's
know about it. I thought that was a pretty interesting pick.
Yeah, it's weird to see these champions. I think just after a number of years of us playing and watching and everything, junglers that don't have gap closers
Hmm.
are very, or have been in previous years, have been very underutilized. I mean, you even if you're looking at like tank junglers and things like that over time, like you're getting like the Sejuanis who have the dash forward. You're getting like a Maokai at some periods of time that like has its like dash route kind of
Hmm.
deal. Like you're not looking for these champions that are just like run at you and try and fight you, or like even even like Set, for instance, when he's played
Hmm.
in the jungle, he doesn't have a gap closer really, but he does have his pull, that like the
Yeah.
thresh flay type pull.
Right.
And so I think that's why that looks weird to me,
Hmm.
and kind of sticks out. But also, I was a little surprised that Demonte went to the Rise so frequently. When like, even though I know his ult is like a semi-global with his teleportation and everything,
Right.
I didn't feel like he was that highly contested of a pick in that. I felt like it was just kind of Galio, Twisted Fate, and if you don't get one of those, you go for like a control mage like LeBlanc, Syndra, Oriana, which is, I feel
Right.
like, pretty common to see. So I enjoyed that kind of comfort pick that still meets that criteria. I thought that was
Right.
kind of cool to see.
Yeah, he was able to hit the meta, but still get a comfort pick, which I think is really strong, especially in these best of fives where, man, if you can just land on something that, tried and true, you don't have to fight in the pick and ban for it, go for it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think he had some pretty solid alts, to be fair, in the games too. It looked like he had a real mastery of the champion as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it was 100% a like comfort pick. It was
Hmm.
something that he genuinely, like you could tell, has a good grasp of and was able to play into some of these other champions that are more meta,
Hmm.
which was cool. I did also really enjoy in the different series seeing some of the new champions that I haven't gotten to see as much. That's just more of a, I guess, a side note, but I thought that was it was fun getting to see them a little bit more, and see how they can be used in, especially like the support picks, and engages and things like that. So
Yeah, we're seeing more out of the Samira pick.
mm,
Overall, I'm really not so convinced. I think there's some ADs that do some stronger stuff. I don't know like what her lane phase is like in the sense of maybe she's just easy to lane with. But
yeah,
overall, I
well,
wasn't too impressed with the character overall.
yeah, it seemed like it's really strong if you get the combo. I think is the Rel and Samira. Like if you have the two together, it's a pretty
Okay.
strong lane. Is what I kind of seem to pick up from the broadcast. Um,
Gotcha. Because TL was only able to get that in the one game.
yeah, but
Every other time it got banned.
right, and like
Yeah.
TL in
Interesting.
general, like in their first series against EG, like that was a pretty dominant series with the 3-0. I
Oh
didn't
yeah.
like sometimes 3-0s can be close. Like the team that loses can kind of
That
like
one
they
wasn't though.
no, not at
No.
all. I was and, well, and that kind of led into that finals, the Cloud9 Team Liquid. I
Hmm.
honestly expected Liquid to dominate it pretty heavily. And you really didn't, like, even in the first two games, they weren't stomps, even though the score lines didn't look that close at the end.
Hmm.
They felt like it was just kind of a gradual lead being grown by TL throughout the games, and kind of just building, building, building till there was the breaking point that kind of snapped. But I really liked watching Cloud9 fight back. But that last game was it was pretty brutal watching Fudge get just kind of just camped and kind of put into his grave a few times. They
Yeah,
really they focused that super hard in that last game, and it snowballed so heavily.
very
And
much
they're
so.
yeah, like they just played it really well. It all started off of pretty sure it started off of Alfari just getting a really solid trade in the top lane. Then they dove him once, and it was just pretty much over at that point. Cloud9 didn't seem to have the ability to get much pressure elsewhere with their picks.
Right.
Like, I mean, Perks on the Twisted Fate going against an Azir, you're not going to get a lot of kill pressure in that lane.
Well, and he just kept getting pushed in too, so he was never gonna have the priority to leave first. And
Right.
the only time that he was able to leave first, Talia was in the lane, or Talia was close. Irelia came in to like ping level 6 and wave clear, and they both walked out top side of mid lane, and the top laner just based and Azir just based too. Like they were just walking into nothing.
Yeah.
They just weren't able to capitalize. The Irelia was too far behind. And it's a shame when you see like a hard fought best of 5 just end with a solo queue game. Because it often doesn't tell the story of the whole series, which is usually unfortunate.
It definitely didn't, and Irelia was like they even kind of talked about it as the picks and bans were coming through. The Irelia was a riskier pick. Like Fudge was picking that in the expectation that he could hold his own, and that the pick would just outscale the Gangplank, at least in the mid game, to the point where Cloud9 would be able to win. Obviously, Gangplank has a super strong late game, but they just stunted his experience and being able to get his items so much. And like I think it might have been the 10-minute mark. Fudge had like 35 CS, and Alfari only had like 55. So it wasn't like I mean, it's still a pretty big gap in terms of CS that early, but like neither one of them were getting close to that 10 CS per minute. That's like a really good like CS score for professional play.
Right.
But the fact that he had so little CS, he was like, I think it got to a point where he was just like 3 levels down on
it was pretty rough.
And I was like, well, not surprised that this is like a 28 minute game or whatever it ended up being.
Well, yeah, they took the first inhibitor like sub 20 minutes.
Yeah, and C9 like
rough.
they just couldn't contest. Like the picks had some scaling in them, but the mid game power really came from like the Irelia and the Talia, and they just couldn't get anything going.
Yeah,
so.
I agree. So yeah, game 5 didn't really tell the story, but the first 4 games were quite exciting, quite fun to watch. I really liked Perks' Zoe in game 3.
Yeah,
that was a fun game to watch.
Yeah, he was doing really well, getting that early poke in and everything on Jensen, and kind of holding him in check with the pick until he could get to the point where Zoe can just like blow people up and just drop that monster damage.
Dude, it's so insane when that paddle star hits, dude. It does like 70%
with the ult and everything. Like just watching those, and it's funny because Niski played really well on Zoe last year too. So I enjoy that Cloud9 mid laners have that in their pocket, and I think most mid laners have it, but I feel like in recent memory, Cloud9 mid laners have been some of the better Zoes in NA. So.
I think I'd agree with that.
Personally, for me, it's fun to see people just get bopped by that paddle star.
It's so much damage, and it is such a finesse game to hit it too.
Yeah.
I think it's a great pick, and competitively, it's very strong too. You have great zone control, great CC, long range.
I think
what more do you want?
Zoe's a really cool pick to me in general for professional and competitive play though too, because you have to have phenomenal map awareness and positioning with that champion. Because if you get caught out, like, your ult,
The little hop doesn't save you.
you'd just end up right back where you were a second and a half later, which has allowed the other team to just close in even more on you.
Right.
So, like, you really have to be... And that showed in the one spot where Santorin was sitting mid lane. He saw Perks use the ultimate on Zoe, and he knew that she didn't have flash up, and he was like, "Oh, gank time now!" Like, he was just waiting for her to for Perks to use Zoe's ult, and as soon as he like went in the one side of it, out comes the jungle.
He was already
just like
moving,
charging, yeah. And so like
brutal.
Like, you can put yourself in some bad spots, but I think that's why I like Zoe and the amount of damage she can do, because it takes a lot of other difficult skills, like positioning, especially in a competitive game where they're clearing out vision control consistently and really like fighting for those kinds of things. You can't always know exactly where the opposing jungler and whatnot is. Like, that adds such a huge layer into whether or not Zoe is going to be able to be played to her full capacity. So
yeah, no, I definitely agree. She's a fun one to watch, and definite high skill cap as well, which is always exciting.
Yeah, I enjoy champions that have a high skill cap but also a high skill ceiling.
Like that Blitzcrank game 2.
Oh yeah, that flash pull.
So good. So good.
I mean, the skill level for Udyr though is
Well, I feel like that's more of just like game knowledge. It's not like mechanically tough. You just have to be in the right place and just mash all your buttons in a row, rotate through all your stances really quick.
Yep.
You know.
Bear headbutt, turtle slap, turtle slap, turtle
slap. The gates are open.
Yeah. I'm assuming Trick 2G right now is thriving.
I hope he's doing all right.
I would
like. Does he still stream?
I think so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he still streams
from his houseboat.
Yeah, my buddy Tyler. Shout out Willie. That's what we have nicknamed him. But
Big Willie style.
Willie loves Trick and his later bitch. And all the Trick memes. He's a fan, so I do know that Trick is still out there slapping people with the bear stance Udyr.
Dude, I don't know, man. Do you think he hears that phoenix sound in his mind, like when he's trying to go to bed? The fucking
it's like it's just tinnitus, but it's just Udyr sounds.
The Udyr sound effect. Holy shit! The spirit guard.
So like a normal person, their ears ring from going to too many like concerts and things like that. For him, it's just like Udyr noises rotating through, or like Nasus's.
Yeah, for Sir Cheesy.
Yeah.
Just hearing that fucking Alpha Strike or whatever it's called.
Yeah, or what's his line?
Strike.
Every they will live, or some will live, some will die, or whatever the hell Nasus's voice line is.
I hope you're not remembering character voice lines. You don't need to be doing that.
That's the only one that I can really remember. It's
Lady Luck is smiling. I know that one.
That's an easy one though.
Exactly.
The cycle of life and death continues. They will or we will live, they will die. That's the Nasus line.
Brutal.
Yep.
What a guy he was.
Seriously. Him and
Interesting.
Renekton. See, it's funny
Rose.
how champions have kind of changed over time. Like with some things, like Zoe's a space alien that's hopping through time and space through portals,
Right.
and that was just like, hey, we've got some Egyptian gods that look cool. Let's throw them in here and have them
Right.
slap people.
Right. Or like the I don't know, like Misfortune and Graves, just like generic pirate character.
Just humanoid pirates that
Yeah.
do normal thing. They just shoot shotguns and pistols.
Dude, and then we have like Aurelian Soul.
Yeah, who's
Fucking
literally a galaxy, I think, or he's like something crazy. I
he
forget what
shoots
his.
galaxies, that's for sure. And then he rides them and
Yeah,
he's got he looks pretty cool in
he
game.
does. The
Yeah.
champion progression has been kind of cool.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think they've done some pretty creative things.
Yeah,
Draven is pretty sick.
I do like some of the old champions that have like a unique thing, like Hecarim. Like that's pretty cool. Like Ghost Horse. I mean, yeah, obviously it's kind of based on Ichabod and Headless Horseman, but still pretty cool. Ghost Centaur thing.
Well, and the realms that they have, like the Isles and Bilgewater and all that, the world building's pretty good. You
Yeah,
know,
they did a solid job.
it's exciting stuff.
Do you have a favorite of the areas?
Piltover.
Same.
Yeah, I like Vi, Jinx, and Caitlyn.
I was gonna say Victor. Victor's one of
Ah,
my back when I played, he became one of my more comfortable mid laners that I just felt like I could pull out
good
um,
champ.
randomly because good wave clear, good burst once you get to a certain point, and if you use your little bubble properly
Right.
to stun people, then you have decent survivability in lane. So
Yeah, I like the Doctor Doom vibe that he had going on with
yeah,
that fucking arm laser.
arm laser, pretty cool.
It was pretty sick. Hard to aim too. It was a skill shot, so you had to like
Yeah,
click and then like throw your mouse. It was fun.
yeah,
Yeah, good champ. Good champ.
very good. Um,
Nice.
but I
We're a
know,
League of Legends lore podcast now.
yes, gotta hit all the lore.
This week on
Lore,
Dragon Ball Z.
lore of legends.
Lore of Legends. What?
I don't know.
Is that the name of a show?
I hope not.
It probably
But if it
is.
is, shout out to you guys.
Yeah, shout out to them.
But I do know that you did want to hit a little bit of Magic. You said that you guys had played some.
Yeah, we were playing some games last night. They were some casual games
Okay, so
with
still not quite into your like league play again.
no. And it seems like I'm not sure if we're gonna get there. Because I've asked and I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. They don't seem too keen to get back into it
Okay,
that quickly. I have a feeling that maybe it's something that they just want to do in person, and we're still playing on Spell Table.
gotcha. I
So it
like
may
that
be a little
though.
bit.
I feel like that's cool when you're able to like get together and do it in person.
It's
And
something to look forward to, that's for sure.
yeah, definitely.
Um, but yeah, I think at the end of last night, I think the consensus is that we want to try and get more games in. So we reached out to a couple other people that we've played some games with, and so we want to see if they'll join us because me, Ian, and Jason are kind of just like chomping at the bit just to play games.
Well, I
Um,
think that's cool too, getting some new people in the mix, or not new people, but people that you don't typically play with,
mhm.
because that will probably add some cool nuance into like which decks you guys want to use and add a
Yeah,
little bit to the meta, mix things around, so that it's not just like the same things again and again that you guys are playing.
Right. And I think it would give yeah, I'm just interested to see like what other people come up with. You know, because I've seen how Jason and Ian and Brett and them build. And I know I think one of the players is Ian, like one of Ian's coworkers.
Okay,
So I'd
cool.
be interested to see like what he brews and what he brings to the table. Um but yeah, I had a pretty good play last night where Ian wasn't too happy with me. I knocked him out of game two. He had like a real explosive turn and then passed to me, and then I just killed him. And
Oh,
then it
so he went from like a high, he's like, oh, I'm doing good, and
Yeah,
then you just were
yeah,
like,
yeah.
nope.
Like, no, sorry, you're dead. And I could have killed him or Jason. And to his point, he did say it. He was like, you were just kind of king making at that point, like you weren't gonna win. I said, I know, but I had you at exactly 14, so I was gonna kill you. There would have been a lot of leftover damage if I went after Jason.
Gotcha.
So you know, that's just the theme of the pod. I love taking out Ian. So even though I
Well,
didn't win that game, I won.
did
I
you
had a
have
spiritual victory.
did you have a better shot of beating Ian, or did you have a better shot? Like, if you, depending on who you took out, who did you have a better chance of beating?
If I left Ian alive, we all would have lost.
Okay.
But if I took out Jason, there's a chance that the game went a different way. But well, no, because that would be the same thing. No, if I killed Jason, Ian easily would have ended the game.
Okay. But since you killed Ian, did you have a chance to potentially beat Jason, or was it just kind of
I
game over?
it wasn't game over. If I had a way, so what I was looking for was a way to recur the piece that I used to kill Ian. If I was able to repeat that effect, I would have been able to kill the others
So
in
it all
like
just
a
depended
turn or
on
two.
card pull if you had
Yeah,
gotten the right
and
thing.
I just
Like,
didn't hit it. Yeah,
okay. See,
but
I think overall that's a better decision then.
yeah, definitely. And taking out
Yeah.
Ian is always usually the right decision. And he knows it too, which is really funny.
So Ian, watch out.
Yeah.
Justin's coming for your throat.
It's not that I like go it's not that I'm like going after Ian. It's just I mean, win percentage is a
Well,
hard statistic to argue with.
and
Like
it also
if
sounds like from your guys' experience playing with how tuned Ian's deck is, that he's got it to a point where it's going to be pretty strong. So, like,
yeah,
taking out the strongest competitor, if you can, is typically going to be a pretty good decision.
I agree.
No
Yeah, I
offense to
agree.
Jason, because I don't know as much about his stuff, but it sounds like since Ian's got this deck that it's his like really, you said only or at least primary deck that he'll really play.
Mhm.
Um, it's going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's unfortunate cuz it's so tough and he doesn't do like we were talking last time. So I forget what the number was, but it was like 25 or 28 decks in all the color combinations. Obviously, some of them are like really weak, right? And those have been the one because they just don't like I haven't put as like any amount of money into them. They were just cards that I had in binders in that theme, you know,
yeah, like you
and
could
I
create
think
a deck, but it's not going to be like a
right,
great one.
right. Take some time and some, you know, shucking and jiving
Yeah.
to get it to where you want.
Well, I'm sure
Um,
there's probably cards in other decks that you have that are tuned that you could fit into those decks if you want to play that would make them
right,
good
right.
decks. But like
It's just priority.
you
I'd
don't
rather have
have
them in this one.
you don't have 8 copies of every card.
Right. I only have one volcanic island. What are you gonna do?
Exactly. I
Um,
don't know what that means. I'm assuming it's a land card.
yeah, it is. It's one of the it's one of
Red
the
black.
close red blue. It's one of the alpha dual lands, so it
Okay.
comes in untapped and it counts as both an island and a mountain. So things that care about like fetching an island or fetch a mountain card, you can go get that.
Gotcha. Okay,
Um,
cool.
they're they're quite old, and I only have a couple of them. They were gifted to me by a client.
Oh,
Um,
very cool.
yeah, one of my more prized possessions, I would say.
Nice. That's
But
awesome.
but to your point, a card like that, it doesn't move around. I have it in the deck that it is essentially best for. You
Yeah.
know, not every deck that has blue red in it needs that volcanic island,
But
right?
the one you have it in does.
It fucking yeah, that's right where it wants to be. Yeah,
Beautiful.
it's good stuff. In that same no, now I would just be flexing. I'm just gonna stop. But yeah, so we had some fun games. Took out Ian. I got murdered horribly in the first game, but he did too. We all did. Brett kicked our ass. Shout out Brett. He played a great game.
Nice.
But yeah, so we had some two good games. Looking forward to more. I know I say that every time.
But hey,
But
that's a good thing. That means that it's something that you keep wanting to come back to and get
yeah,
into. So
it's like my favorite thing ever
that's
right
awesome.
now. It's like all I want to do. Um, and
Speaking of things we
then
need to come back to, just off topic, but I need to play the Forest again. I'm like,
yeah,
I think I'm gonna take a brief break from some Warzone. I've been getting a little frustrated with the game, and
gotcha.
I don't wanna feel that vibe when I'm playing. I want to have fun with the boys when I'm playing.
Right, right.
So I think I might need to just take a breather and refresher. So I'm down to play some Forest soon.
Nice. Well, yeah, we'll have to check in with Kyle then and see if we can get some time in. What's tomorrow? Tomorrow's Thursday.
Yeah,
Nice. Okay, so then yeah, we'll have to see if we can get some game time in then.
dope. I'm down.
But yeah, because that's a fun time and that's a fun story. Um, but yeah.
Cool. But yeah, you were saying Brett murdered you all. Shout out Brett.
Yeah.
Sorry, I kind of fully interrupted your.
No, no, that's fine. I was just kind of honestly my mind drifted to where we were on the server and like, oh, where are we at and what can we do and this and that. So yeah, back to the pod. But yeah, so Magic's fun. I have an order for a box of the new set Kaldheim
Yep.
that's supposed to ship on Friday. So
Ooh.
hopefully I'll be
So
able
it's
to
coming
crack some
soon.
packs next. Yeah, hopefully I'll be able to crack some packs next week. That's always like my favorite thing to do. Hopefully, we'll get some cool cards.
Nice.
Yeah,
I look
man,
forward to hearing if you get some dope stuff.
dude, that high value. That's what we're here for, man. Cardboard money. Let me see it, dude. Dude, like that Sakashima that I pulled in the Commander Legends packs. Like,
Mm,
dude, that's literally you just like gifting me money. Like
hell yeah, man.
yeah, it's cool. That's like that'd be like gifting somebody Bitcoin and then it just like popping off.
Hey,
Because
I'm
like there's mythic rares and then there's like that mythic rare.
well,
It's
like
quality.
I was sending that and I was like, I really hope the packs are not just duds. I was
Dude,
like,
that'd be so funny because then my reaction would be like, hey,
here's
sick gift, dude.
just have all
Thanks.
these trash ass cards. And
Yeah.
you're like,
Yeah.
oh man, like it
Unplayable,
still wouldn't have been a
garbage.
waste because it's still kind of a fun experience. I think opening the packs and pulling
Right.
cards. But
Right.
I'm glad that there was some like quality in it too,
Oh, hell yeah.
because I had no idea what I'm doing. I was just like Commander Legends packs, booster packs, boom,
Well,
sent.
you did it. You did the exact right thing. Yeah, and yeah, it's cool because like even cards that I've traded like with Ian or I remember like come up in a game with Sarah, like there are things tied to some of the cards, and now that card will be forever tied to like you having gifted it, and I think that's pretty cool. So
I dig
thank
that.
you.
No, I'm a
Yeah,
big fan of that.
yeah,
Even though I
it's
don't
good
play, I
stuff.
still get to kind of be a part of it.
See, but I feel like once this all this pandemic stuff's over and we find some time, I feel like
Yeah,
you know
I do
we will
definitely
play
want to.
again.
Oh, absolutely. I enjoyed it a lot. I like have an okay grasp of at least general mechanics and things. So
Sure. Yeah.
I think it would be fun to get back into it, play a little bit, mess around with some of the decks you got.
Well, you know what? You know what we could do? This would be a stretch, but I mail you some of my decks, and then you can play with us on Spell Table at no investment to you. You
Would
just
be
get
that'd be
just free
interesting.
stacks of 100 cards. It'd
That
be
would be
like
interesting. Or I could go out and get precon.
you could.
I could grab a
You
precon and just get my ass whooped every fucking time.
well, it'd be Ian that'd be whooping your ass. I could play down at that level. I could join you there, and Brett could join you there, and Jason can join you there. It's all Ian.
Come on, Ian.
Yeah, he's the bad guy. No, that is definitely a possibility. I mean, I'll leave it up to you, but
I'll
that's
think on
something you
it.
can
I think
do.
that might be cool to check out.
Spell table's pretty fun.
I don't necessarily want to dump my life savings into cardboard
It'd
money,
be,
but
dude, it'd be $50. It'd be the $40 for the deck and 10 for the sleeves, and you're there.
it's not bad.
That's all you need.
Yeah, and I don't know. I still think that I'm more intrigued by the market for the cards. Like I
Okay.
kind of want to buy a box just to hope that I get some good cards to sell.
That's one way to do it too.
Just make some cash selling some
Well,
cards.
yeah, what about Mr. Charlie, Mr. Critical? Have you seen those videos, man?
I don't know which ones you're referencing. I know Critical.
He Yeah, he looks like a man deranged in these like he's cracking Pokemon packs, Yu-Gi-Oh packs,
I don't
Magic
think I've
packs.
ever actually seen what he looks like.
Really?
I've seen him play, or I've seen Critical was one of those YouTubers that I used to watch that would like play random games and things like
And then
that.
just
That
have like
his
the voiceover.
yeah, that he's like
Ah,
talking through and his the that man's like his energy and his like craziness in everything was just like over the top and it wild and very entertaining.
yeah.
Um, so I can't even imagine him pulling like I've seen normal people pulling like Pokemon cards and like oh holographic Charizard and like freaking out and everything.
Dude,
He
he's
would be
funny.
a man deranged sounds like a pretty good like I can imagine him doing
Dude.
that
And just like the number that keeps tallying at the top of the screen, you're just like, "Oh my
with like the
God."
value of the cards.
Yeah, but then you're also looking at just like the stacks upon stacks of these boxes in his room, and you're just like, it can't equal out. It can't equal out. And then his like girlfriend's there with him, like cracking packs too. And it's just like, it looks like you're watching somebody do like heroin and ruin their life.
Oh
Like
my
that,
god.
that's what it feels like you're experiencing. I'm not going to claim to know his financial situation. My man could got the bag like that.
He
Who knows?
probably he was in on YouTube when YouTube money was still big. So he
Right.
probably had some pretty good YouTube money,
Okay.
but
I
still those
I hope he's doing well.
those box sets are
Not
pricey.
cheap. Yeah, they're not cheap. And he's got fucking stacks of them.
That's crazy. I'm gonna have to check some of these videos out.
And it's funny and it's cool because you know he's got the screen up and he's like he'll pull a card. He's looking. He's like, "Ooh, we didn't get this one yet." He's like, "Ooh, it's at the top of the," and then he'll get one worth like $15 or something. They'll be like fucking garbage again and just like throw it away. Like it's so there's no rhyme or reason to any of it. It seems like he's just doing it because he loves it, and it's fucking hilarious.
That's
And
cool, man.
and we have to live vicariously through him because
Whatever
I like,
makes you happy.
yeah, like I have one box on the way, and I'm like, ooh, baby, and I'm gonna cherish that moment forever.
Oh
Like
yeah. You're
I'm
giddy
still
about it.
milking. Yeah, I am, and I'm still milking the juices of the Double Masters box
Yeah.
from the summer. Like that was insane. Some of the cards I got from that were insane.
I'm
And
excited to hear you go into what you get from this Kaldheim pack
uh
or box, not
it's
pack.
gonna be great. Dude, the set looks amazing. But yeah, critical Kraken packs is it's so funny.
I'm gonna have to check it out. I just wrote
Yeah, it's good
myself a
stuff.
note of things to check out, but um, but yeah, I know we didn't really hit on Formula One at all. There wasn't a lot of Formula One stuff to hit, but if
Right.
people have an opportunity, I would recommend checking out the F1 virtual Grand Prix they had. It was the Austrian Grand Prix.
Now give us some names. Who's racing?
So you got a mix. You've got some like F2, F3 younger drivers, but one for instance, or two for instance, I guess. You have Pietro Fittipaldi, who
Hmm.
stood in for Haas when Grosjean was out with his hands. Yeah, doing some jazz hands for him. And actually, Pietro's younger brother, Enzo Fittipaldi,
Mm,
also was in the race and actually won the virtual Grand Prix, which was pretty cool. He's like, I
nice.
think 19. I think he's an F3 driver currently,
Okay.
maybe. I can't remember exactly. But then you also have Arthur Leclerc, Charles' younger brother, was racing in the race as
Okay.
well.
Nice.
Stoffel Van Dorn, who is Mercedes reserve driver. Alex Albon raced in it. Um, Nick Latifi was in it. You had some different like other just video game people. Like there's a dude named Pieface who I haven't heard of, but apparently he's a big FIFA, I think, like video game guy.
Gotcha. And then can just casually race at a professional level in an F1 game.
Eh, yeah.
Nice.
Well,
That's
I
pretty
mean,
sick.
at the same time, like we for Tiny Meat Gang, Noel hopped in for some of those, and he was like not the worst on the grid. And I mean,
Right.
on it, he did train a bit for it, but I can imagine that these guys who are already professional video gamers, the reaction time and things like that you get from playing video games, if you put some time into one of these like racing sims,
Right.
can imagine that transitions over decently. Not
Well, and it
necessarily to like real life racing where you have to have the feel of the car and the tires and stuff, but
right.
if you're just doing this virtually in sim racing, I feel like it can potentially transfer a little easier.
Because at the end of the day, the tracks really are just like memorizing the brake zone and like kind of what gear you have to be in. And other than that,
Yeah.
you're just like fucking cruising.
Yep. It's just like
So
right,
I can see
left,
how it would
right,
translate. Yeah.
right. Yeah, it's just like memorizing. And I think if you do, especially like this race, it was decently long for like most sim races. If you hop into one, you'll have like a 15 lap race,
Right.
and they did 36 laps.
Okay. So it
So
was probably like a half or a quarter of what the real Grand
about
Prix would
half,
be.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So it was a
That makes
solid
sense.
like I'd say like 40-minute race. So like you still have a decent amount of time. You saw a couple people on different pitch strategies, which was kind of neat. Like some people
Right.
started on the soft tires and went to the mediums. Stoffel Van Dorn went on the mediums initially and was like able to ride them out for a decently longer stint, and then hopped on the softs at the end and was chasing people down. Ended up making it onto the podium.
Nice.
So, but
So it was entertaining to watch.
yeah, I definitely think so. It was a little tough because
That was going to be my next question. You're about to hit
they
it.
they focused a lot. It was hard for them to spread out the coverage across the board with it being a short race. So a lot of it, especially towards the end, really focused on the fight with the top three,
Mm-hmm.
which was a pretty close race towards the end. But yeah, you couldn't really, other than them occasionally mentioning people that were lower down in the field, it was like really a top focused broadcast,
Gotcha.
which I it was still entertaining, but I think when you have all these personalities and people, I would have enjoyed getting to see some of the other battles around. But it's also a
Right.
shorter race, more condensed, so there's less opportunities for that stuff. And but still, overall, I thought was pretty fun.
Nice. Because I saw when that went live, um, and I wasn't 100% sold to tune in, but I think I might tune into the next one. Now, what were the camera angles like? Were you getting a good view of the track and the cars?
Yeah, I felt like it was pretty comparable to a normal broadcast for an F1
Nice.
race. I think the views and the different camera angles and things like that, I think did pretty well with it.
Okay. Cool.
The other thing that was fun and entertaining to me was the amount of penalties that were handed out throughout
Mm,
it. Like by the
yeah.
end, I think there was only one person that didn't have any penalty seconds out of
Damn.
like 18 people. Um, and yeah, some people had
What
racked
was it
up
like? A
like,
lot of out of bounds.
yeah, out of bounds, a couple speeding in the pit lane or like going too fast in the pit lane,
Right.
different things like that. A couple like not collisions, but just like, oh, they touched wheels kind of thing.
Right. Right.
So nothing, not really anything too crazy with like crashes, but yeah, there's
Gotcha.
some people that had up to I think like 18 to 20 seconds worth of penalties.
What? Yo, that's
So
kind of funny. Well,
it
you have to
is,
figure
yeah.
like if that it makes sense to me that that would be the meta that because you're not ending lives, you people are gonna be like fucking
Aggressive.
yeah, like a little more rammy. Like that's
Yeah.
kind of funny to me.
No, it was.
Um,
And it was funny because it actually did kind of come into play, or they were at least talking about how it could come into play at the end of the race in like
right.
final placings. So,
Nice.
yeah,
Okay, I might have to tune in. That sounds pretty
it
fun.
was fun. It's definitely worth it. They had to determine like starting positions instead of
Hmm.
having a qualies. They had a sprint race that was I think 5 or 6 laps with other people. So like they had these 18 guys or whatever that are like the drivers for the race,
Right.
but then they each had like a co-part that did the sprint race,
Okay.
and based
Yep.
on sprint race finishing, that determined their positions, their starting positions in the actual
Gotcha.
full
Okay,
race.
because I had checked out in watching F1 more like F1 stuff is being recommended on YouTube. Have you seen any of Jimmy Broadbent's videos?
He was in this.
Ex yes, and I
Yeah,
watched his surrogate do his qualies, and they
gotcha.
got P5 with a penalty time.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah, that's pretty funny.
I
Okay.
haven't watched too much of like sim racers and them doing their things. I get a lot more recommendations for like videos about F1 theory and
Right.
like certain drivers and
How Sergio Perez did his last to first.
right,
That video. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Stuff
yeah. I
like
gotcha.
that. So also something cool I saw on Twitter, Matt Gallagher, who does the WTF1 podcast, was
Hmm.
this week he's actually doing he's highlighting an F1 community person each day of the week. So he's like tweeting out something. So it could be someone who does really cool graphic design for liveries. It could be someone who does like cool breakdown videos or history videos of F1. Like he's kind
Right.
of doing a bunch of those things, which is kind of cool. But I get, yeah, a lot more of those types of more analytical videos as opposed to that. But I might have to check out some of the actual sim racing videos. I haven't watched too many of those.
They're kind of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're kind of funny.
Well, that's what I got from when like Noel was doing the racing with like Lando. There was
Yeah.
a lot of little slight jabs and jokes sent back and
Hmm.
forth. I think that that would be entertaining. So
Well, it seems like people are terribly shitty drivers online, but because of the way the games are designed, like you can kind of get away with it in a way.
oh, you definitely
Um,
can. Yeah.
yeah, so there's just a lot of that, and it's really funny. Um, but yeah, that's interesting. And it's like being broadcast as
Yeah,
like
they had commentators the whole nine.
yeah,
It was
yeah,
fun.
F1 esports, very
Yeah.
cool stuff, man.
And I think it kind of gave me my fix for watching some F1 races
Right.
for the week.
Well, I'll tell you what
So,
I did to get my fix. So, me and Sarah watched the 2019 Azerbaijan race
ooh, okay.
and just watched fucking Charles Leclerc just bite the big one, just corner after corner after corner. He retires.
Yeah.
It was a pretty funny race though, I have to say.
Definitely
I like the street circuit.
yeah, I do too. The street circuits are like they can be so boring or they can just be so fun. It's like
Mhm.
it's very one or the other. There's not a lot of middle ground on those because it can be so tight for passing and things like that. You can either have
Yeah.
some really wild passes and interesting stuff, or it could just be people like in single file line, like, oh, this is the starting order, like this is the
And this is
finishing
the
order.
finishing order. Yep. Well,
So
and there was a couple pileups, couple spins, couple of yeah, all sorts
yeah,
of stuff going on in that one. So yeah, it was pretty exciting.
very
Gotta
cool.
love that. Now, okay, here's when when is when's the first race? Is it in
First,
March?
I think it's end of March.
Gotcha. Okay, that's not too far off.
Just gonna double check it real quick. Yeah, March
Gotcha.
28th,
Gotcha. Okay, good stuff.
the
Good stuff.
Bahrain Grand Prix.
Now, is it the outer track?
I don't think so. I think it's the inner. Yeah, it's the inner track. I'm
Ah,
pretty sure.
okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Lots to look
So
forward to. Lot
yeah,
to look forward to.
only about 2 months away. It's not terrible.
Hmm. Now, sorry, back to the virtual Grand Prix. Do you know when the next race is?
Uh, I will find out. Two dudes on the internet.
It's the best segment.
Maybe if I can find it.
I'm just thinking of everything that we have upcoming. So we have start of the F1 season in March. We have the
Well,
start of the
we
LCS
have
season.
winter testing is coming up, so winter testing F1 is going to be 3 days, March 2nd through the 4th. So that's only a
Oh,
month
okay,
away that
cool.
we'll get
Right.
some winter testing. I don't see when the next F1 virtual Grand Prix is,
That's all right.
unfortunately.
That's all
But
right. We can figure it out later.
yeah, but I definitely think it would be fun to check out.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed the first one, so definitely recommend it.
Cool.
I think it actually may be this coming weekend. It
Okay.
seemed like okay here actually. Yeah, February 7th. So
Cool.
Sunday. So they had round one was this past Sunday. Round two is it's going to be the Great Britain, so it'll be at Silverstone
Okay.
for this one.
Nice.
Then it will be. I think it's at like. I'm pretty sure it was at like 1 p.m. Eastern time. So it's
Oh,
like
that's weird.
middle. Well, it's like 6 p.m. Uh, in the UK.
Gotcha.
So what like 1 p.m. our time. So it was just 1 p.m. on a Sunday, like just mid afternoon
Right.
watching.
Oh, that's not bad.
And then they're doing Brazil the following Sunday. So just three weekends in a row that they're doing this, and then they'll have a couple weeks until winter testing. So
Nice. And then we have LCS games coming up this weekend too, right?
yes, we do. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So this is actually the start of the LCS regular season.
Right.
Now that they've had the kickoff tournament out of the way.
Nice.
So
Cool.
yeah, so I'll have some stuff to talk about for next week. But do you have anything else you want to knock out before we wrap things up?
Nope. I think that's it for me.
Beautiful.
I'm all topicked out, man. You can take us out of here.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for listening and watching the tall and short of it. Can still find us on Anchor, anchor.fm/tall and short of it, Twitter. Tweet at us at tall and short of one, the number one. And of course, we're on YouTube now. So check us out. We'll catch you all next time.
That's been the tall and short of it, everybody. Peace out.
Later.